Hello, fellow VR friends. It's time for another hardware video, another hardware review. And this time we're looking at a new headset from Pico Interactive, the Pico 4. And let's see how it stacks up against the tried and true Quest 2. Well, spoiler, it stacks up pretty nicely. It presents a serious challenge to Meta's reign in the standalone space. I'm not going to do a separate unboxing video, but if we were to decide by looks alone, this would have been a pretty easy choice. Pico 4 looks sleek, it looks modern, the big glossy front looks great in my opinion, without being overly futuristic, and Quest 2, well, it has a bit of charm of its own, right? It's instantly recognizable, but when we compare it to Pico 4, Quest 2 does look like an older headset. It looks old gen, and it is 2 years old after all, so it shouldn't be all that surprising, but still, as a result, Pico 4 feels like an upgrade even before opening the box, or even before putting it on your head, should I say. But let's not get too superficial here. Obviously, VR is about the worlds within, not about how expensive or inexpensive a particular headset looks. Having said that, first impressions are great. But what about second impressions? And by that, I mean comfort, ergonomics, and so on. Well, Pico 4 also delivers in that respect. It's very comfortable. You could say it comes with its own Elite strap included out of the box. So you kind of save $50 at least compared to the Quest 2, which comes with a soft strap and relies on third-party accessories or on the official Elite strap, which costs around $50. Anyway, it's not just about this rigid strap, but also its battery is placed at the back where it doubles as a cushion, and this really helps offload pressure from the front and makes the headset feel more balanced, more comfortable, and just makes it easier to wear for extended periods of time. So it's not just about soft strap, hard strap, but the whole design is different with the battery being placed at the back. Putting on the Pico 4 is quick and seamless thanks to the knob at the back, which ensures the headset stays tight and in one place. And you can also move the strap up and down. It's all very seamless. The Pico 4 also supports granular IPD adjustment. So granular meaning that you can set it with a definite precision down to 0.5 millimeter. What's interesting though is that IPD can be adjusted from within the headset. The lenses will move automatically. That can be a little bit trippy because you feel the lenses move on your face, but more importantly, it's a feature that's not really available on any other headset apart from, for example, Vario, which is a super high-end headset. It costs thousands of dollars. So it makes you wonder what's going on. How heavily is ByteDance subsidizing this headset? But it is a useful feature. It just feels a little bit misspent, overly premium, but well, who am I to complain, right? Especially when it's a much better solution than the fixed IPD offered by Quest, where you have these 3 options and you lose FOV and so on. It's terrible. The Pico 4 also scores some extra points for its magnetic face cushion, which allows the front padding to be swapped like without any hassle. Having the facial interface snap instantly into place feels weirdly satisfying, and third-party manufacturers have already started offering magnetic frames, gaskets, prescription lenses, so it's a feature that will definitely be utilized by third-party manufacturers. So overall, the headset offers a noticeably higher degree of comfort, especially when compared to the soft strapped version of the Oculus Quest or Meta Quest. I were actually able to use the Pico 4 continuously for over 8 hours, and it did start to pinch my nose after 8 hours. My nose bridge got red and swollen, but that's only because I was actually able to spend 8 hours in VR. With the Quest 2, it wasn't possible. I would just get fatigued. So when it comes to ultra prolonged use, like 6 hours, 8 hours, Pico 4 fares much better because of its increased physical comfort, but also optical comfort. The lenses, the IPD adjustment, etc. So speaking of which, let's discuss optics. Because on paper, the Pico 4 is a step up in almost every category except for refresh rate. It's got bigger resolution, wider FOV, more RAM when compared to Quest 2, and it also has 2 LCD panels instead of one, which is quite important because if you only have one panel, a lot of pixels get lost to the space between the lenses. You can't really see them. So the Pico 4 has a 33% higher resolution than the Quest 2, and also it utilizes pixels more efficiently. So we can assume this number is even higher. And when you're doing side-by-side comparisons, like here, well, you can see that the difference in resolution is obvious. But if you're playing VR games, then, well, the difference is not immediately noticeable. And same with FOV. Horizontally, there's an 8-degree difference, and vertically, there's a 4-degree difference. So it's not a major boost, but the FOV is bigger nonetheless. So there's no chromatic aberration, there's no God rays, but there is something else in place of God rays. It's sometimes referred to as the dirty lens effect. It's caused by the light bouncing between the pancake layers, the lens layers, and it looks a little bit like a smudge. It looks like the lenses are dirty. You might want to wipe them, but they're not dirty. It's just an artifact, but it just proves that at least for now, pancake lenses are not completely artifact free. There are some artifacts, and overall, all these improvements add up quickly. So when we look at the optics as a whole, it's obvious that the Pico 4 offers really good experience on their own. Each parameter, it's only slightly better, slightly higher resolution, slightly bigger sweet spot, slightly wider FOV, because I forgot to mention that the sweet spot's really big. It's very difficult to miss that sweet spot. It's practically a non-issue, at least for me. It's a non-issue on Pico 4. So overall, that leads to bigger comfort again, and that leads to longer sessions, less fatigue, and I found myself spontaneously hopping into virtual reality more often because of that. When it comes to the controllers, they follow a proven script with a slight twist. The shape is quite unusual. Controllers look oblique, remind me of a pirate's sword a little bit. So this, in theory, allows users to perform a wider range of motions without having the controllers bump into each other. But in practice, most games are already designed with all the existing controllers in mind, so this would never happen anyway. There is one app on the Pico 4 called the Calvin Harris Experience, where users are asked to clap their hands. So that's something you can only do with those controllers, but that's an exception rather than a rule, as this game was specifically designed for the Pico 4. There is an additional system button on the right controller intended to make screenshotting and video recording faster, but in practice, I didn't really use it at all. Also, there are 2 system buttons on both controllers, identical system buttons, which benefits left-handed users. But on the flip side, you have two buttons that do exactly the same thing. So it would be nice to be able to, for example, remap those buttons. And well, the controllers also require two AA batteries. There's a nice battery ejection mechanism, which makes swapping batteries quite easy. So the controllers, they're good, but there's no denying that Quest 2 touch controllers are still better. It's a very high bar. With Quest 2 touch controllers, everything feels reactive and bouncy, and also they sound very premium. Whereas Pico 4 controllers, they still sound a little bit plasticky. When it comes to performance, Pico 4 has 8 gigabytes of RAM. It runs its chipset at a high clock speed, 587 hertz. So it is a powerful device, but just because it's more powerful than the Quest 2, it doesn't mean all the games will automatically look better. They will probably render in higher resolution, but to make the game look better, it takes a lot of effort, and nothing illustrates it better than this spreadsheet made by Red Matter 2 developer Vertical Robots. There's foveated rendering, subsampling, anti-aliasing, and iBuffer. All of those things play a role. It just shows how much effort has to be put into making game look better on a new system. So I guess we just need more hardcore developers like Vertical Robot, who are not just interested in porting their games, but want to push the boundaries of what's possible on standalone systems. Either way, this extra horsepower, higher clock speed comes at the cost of battery life. As a result, fully charged Pico 4 will only last marginally longer despite having a much larger battery than the Quest 2. According to YouTuber Lowbox VR, Quest 2 users can enjoy their headset for an average of 109 minutes, while Pico 4 offers around 117 minutes of usage. So the battery is almost twice as big, but you only get extra 10 minutes of usage. So the Pico 4 has one additional camera, and this camera is placed in the middle, and it's a 16 megapixel camera and in full color, which allows for high quality color pass-through. And the pass-through looks really nice, although it is in 2D, so everything seems flat, making it a bit harder to determine the exact distance, but you will not have any trouble grabbing your controllers or moving around your room, and it looks nice. And when it comes to tracking, well, tracking's always been Meta's strong point, but Pico's tracking's just as good, if not sometimes better. For example, Pico will work very well in the dark. I mean, the tracking works in dimly lit rooms. And well, the Quest 2 tracking can be also quite forgiving, but it will not work in truly suboptimal conditions. And also, it's possible for Quest 2 to randomly drop tracking sometimes for reasons that are not always obvious. It doesn't happen very often, but well, with Pico, I haven't used it for long enough, perhaps, but it seems their proprietary tracking system called SLAM is delivering. So I haven't had any problems with the tracking dropping. The floor level is always set correctly. These are small details, but they do add up, and it's just interesting to see Pico perform just as good, if not better, and beat Meta at its own game, so to speak. When it comes to user interface, it seems Pico Interactive decided to borrow heavily from the work already pioneered by Oculus and Meta, so do not expect any originality. It's basically a copy of what already works. With Quest, you need a Meta account, and with Pico, you need a Pico login. Sounds similar, but there are some differences. Generally, Meta, that's Facebook, right? Facebook rebranded itself as Meta a while ago, and Pico Interactive is a subsidiary of ByteDance, which in turn is famous, well known for TikTok. So any attempt by Pico Interactive to distance themselves from ByteDance and TikTok and suggest they care about privacy, like over here with this keyboard where they emphasize that this keyboard does not collect any data. There is no data transmission, none of this. Well, that obviously sounds a little bit amusing. The idea of ByteDance being suddenly privacy focused sounds a little bit ridiculous. But it is true that currently the Pico login doesn't require any real data. It can be set up with just an email. And Meta account, by comparison, requires you to give your real name, your date of birth, your payment details. It asks you to set up a Meta Horizon profile. So there's a difference, but we don't know for how long. It's safe to assume that at some point Pico Interactive will introduce new terms and conditions, which will be more aggressive, more invasive. It's just that right now they don't want to do anything that could potentially discourage customers from purchasing their headsets. I guess it's time to address the elephant in the room, meaning content. Because if you are planning to buy Pico 4 for its standalone capabilities, you should probably understand what you're getting yourself into. Because the Pico 4 ecosystem has just launched, and when compared to Quest 2, it is lacking. A lot of popular applications like YouTube VR or VR chat are missing. Media content feels pretty lackluster and uninspiring. There's no App Lab or App Lab equivalent. So you might end up purchasing a product that's not very good. You can actually see some games have only a couple of reviews when, these are big titles. For example, another thing on the Meta Quest, you have these daily deals where each day you have a different game on promotion. And over here, you just had one game, The Creed, which was discounted for months. Day after day, I would go into the Pico store, and the first thing I would see is The Creed with 30% discount, and it was just embarrassing. It made me feel like the store has been abandoned. Things like that make it look like the store is not only new, but that it's also stagnant and not busy. And there are a lot of good games, a lot of good apps available for standalone Pico 4. Don't get me wrong. It's just that when you compare Pico 4 with Meta Quest, when it comes to content, you just see this massive gap. Because on Meta, well, there's obviously App Lab, there's side loadable content, Quill, Meta TV with all the documentaries and award-winning video content, etc., etc. There's just so much content, right? So after all is said and done, which headset is better, the Pico 4 or Quest 2? And the answer is Pico 4, without a doubt. It's not just a worthy challenger. It actually dominates in every key area. Are you surprised? I mean, if you are, then let's summarize. It's more powerful than Quest. It has better optics. It has higher resolution. It's more ergonomic. It's more lightweight, and all of that for the same price point as the Quest 2. So from a hardware perspective, it's a no contest pick. It's a no-brainer. There's no point in sugarcoating. There's no way around it. There's no point in saying, they're different. No. Pico 4 is a better headset in every category, except for refresh rate. From hardware perspective, it's an obvious choice. However, when it comes to software and content, the Pico 4 cannot come close to the scope of Meta's ecosystem. And I'm not sure if it ever will. some games like Beat Saber will probably never be available on the Pico. If you are a PC VR enthusiast and you're interested in using Pico primarily as a wireless streaming headset, or you want to foster competition and you're interested in establishing a second app library on a rival ecosystem, or maybe you have a problem with Meta, you're not happy that, I don't know, they discontinued Eco Arena or some, or you've got some other grievances, or you already have a specific use case in mind. You're planning to use Pico for WebXR, for example, or you're going to only play Demio or Rec Room, and you know these games are supported. Well, in all of these cases, Pico 4 is a worthwhile headset. It's definitely a headset worth considering. So that would be all. I'm curious to see if Meta Quest 3 can score an equalizer, but well, we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.